Glad to be here. It's an early morning, and so if you guys are looking at us and saying, that guy Kyle and Jesse from California, their eyes sure looked red, that is not because we are enjoying Glasshouse brands in the back. Rather, it is 6 o'clock in the morning in California, so we're off to an early start here. I also got up a couple of hours early and I reread some of the early research that I wrote on Glasshouse brands. And one of the things I wrote was called An Introduction to Glasshouse Brands, California's Greatest Hope. And when I went back and read the article this morning, a lot of it held up pretty well, but there was one part that I looked back and I said, I think I had that wrong. And the part that I had wrong was I wrote in the article, it's California's greatest hope, which I like that part still, but I thought in order for Glasshouse to really prosper and perform, we needed a healthy California. And we still have a lot of challenges in California. There's high taxes, there's not enough dispensaries, there's a thriving traditional market, but Glasshouse has managed to still do very well during this period despite the tough California backdrop. And so Kyle, what I wanted to start out talking with you about today is, can you talk a little bit about why you think California has performed, or not California, why Glasshouse has performed so well during a tough period for so many California operators?
So thank you, Jesse. And Matt, what a big room, and so nice that more and more people are interested in cannabis. So I love this this setting, and I love that to be amongst all you guys. You know, Glasshouse is only California. Our focus is only California. So when you're thrown in that pool, we either swam or we would have died. And so we have really focused in from the get-go on low costs and you know, getting the best possible cannabis at the best possible prices to people. And I think that's the formula that has really worked for us.
Yeah, it seems like from my observations, having scale, having low cost, and also being vertical can help in California. But I think, Kyle, vertical's been a bit of a blessing and a curse in some places. It is nice to have the retail, it is nice to have the CPG, but I think those business lines have been potentially more challenging for a lot of California operators.
So yeah, I mean, it's hard to make money in retail in California, period. Like full stop. If all you are is retail, that's tough. Plus you have 280E just bearing down on you. So that's difficult. For us, the retail, you know, we've got 10 stores throughout the state, and it's really nice that we are touching the consumer. So we get instant feedback, and I think that's what's been key. And then CPG, it's basically just, you know, putting our product in our own tins, our own bags, and that has also, we think that's really the future, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. When we have interstate commerce, we think a lot of it's going to be in our own bags and our own tins, and we'll be just shipping from California.
And one of the challenges in California, I think nationwide, but especially in California, is the thriving traditional market, and it's a real low-cost environment in California. You can get some really great flower for relatively low prices. You've done well with Glasshouse Farms in California, and that's hitting already an attractive price point, but you have a new line called Allswell, which I think is really interesting. Do you want to talk a little bit about what price point you're hitting there, how you're doing that, and how you think that might convert some of those illicit market consumers over to your products?
Yeah, so California, the illicit market, or the traditional market, is a blessing and a curse. The reason why California is looked upon as kind of the home of cannabis is for generations and decades, Californians have been growing cannabis up in the Emerald Triangle, and look, the police never took it that seriously. I shouldn't say they didn't take it, but compared to other states, it most of the time was a ticket when I was growing up. So that allowed that to thrive. And so now you have a legal market with very high taxes, a lot of regulations. And so even though, you know, it's almost embarrassing to say, but my best test sample is my 23-year-old son, who would have he'd have a plug show up at my house. And I'm like, buddy, what are you doing buying illegal cannabis? Like, Dad, I can't afford to pay. I like to smoke weed and I don't have enough money so I buy here. And so what we decided to do a couple of years ago is I said, how do we get an eighth, and picture this in any state in the country, but an eighth of fresh cannabis from California out the door, taxes, high taxes included, for $9.99. And remember, our consumers, by and large, are younger people. You know, 20 years from now, those will be great consumers, just like what happened in wine, but today they are pinched. So we rolled out this year $9.99 out the door to the consumer, and we think that's the best way to attack the illicit market is to bring people over. And I see some faces here of people that may remember when Napster and LimeWire was the way to download music. Well, now you have Apple Music and won't destroy your computer. And that was a difference between $1 and $0. Here, we actually can give you a better product for, I think, less cost than a plug.
Yeah. And you have a fantastic opportunity just in California, but things could get a lot bigger in the future, especially if we get to federal legalization. It's the week of 420. There's some hope we might get some news about Schedule 3 this week. We'll see. There's also the potential if Schumer embarrasses himself on 420 and introduces the CAOA Act again, which is never going to pass, but seems to be an annual event that he likes to participate in. But Kyle, I think one day we will eventually get towards federal legalization. How do you see the landscape evolving once cannabis is legal across the entire U.S.?
You know, so I've been a long-time investor in real estate, and I always try and look at the cycles, and I always try and say, let me invest as a value investor. Let me get a good value for my dollars. And so when I look at other products, like every other product, you know, what's your favorite Florida wine? What's your favorite Ohio wine? You know, at the end of the day, cannabis it likes to be grown. The plant wants to be grown basically in California, Oregon, and Washington. It grows well there and it grows cheaply there. So to me, interstate commerce is not an if. Debating it is stupid. It's a when. Now, when could be 20 years. I have no idea. So, but at some point, I think we're built for interstate commerce. I think the consumer wants good quality cannabis at a cheap price. And you know, there's a lot of people filling that illicit market in New York and some other states where they go all the way across, like New York, they go all the way across like the furthest state you could find, California, to deliver it to New York. And so the consumer clearly wants it. I just don't know when that happens. So right now, we'll just continue to expand and grow our footprint in California. But eventually, last quarter we grew at $120 a pound. We still think that's way too expensive. We think we can break that 4-minute mile, that kind of $100 barrier. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think our future is bright. When that happens, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think we have the data, right? I mean, even before there were the stores in New York, for decades we had California cannabis going to New York, and now you can go to the bodegas and they're stocked with California cannabis. So we know what consumers want. It's just a matter of setting up a system that will get them what they want. When that happens, Kyle, do you expect resistance on the MSO front to interstate commerce, or do you think you're going to have some strong partnerships there?
You know, we want to just sell cannabis to people wherever, and certainly we would work with anybody that wants to sell that. I can't really predict. I know when people put money to, they invest capital and they built grows in rooms like this, they're not going to be happy if they're growing $800 a pound and the West Coast is growing it at $300 a pound, things like that. But I will tell you, if you think that bad legislation will continue on and save capital, bad legislation in California didn't help. You know, MedMen, you know, unfortunately had some problems. I know it's sort of being resurrected, but they've been having troubles, and the legislators don't care at all.
And I think another important thing to touch on today is that here we are, I'm talking to Kyle, CEO of a publicly traded company that sells hundreds of millions of dollars worth of cannabis. Here we are talking about cannabis and investing in a room full of hundreds of people. And we're so privileged to be able to do that. Kyle's so privileged to be able to sell cannabis and walk around like a free man. Not everyone has been so lucky. You know, look no further than Weldon Angelos. Look no further than Luke Scarmazzo, people who did meaningful sentences for a fraction of the cannabis that Kyle's business literally sells in a day. Kyle, can you talk about what you're doing to make sure those people aren't left behind?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. And I would encourage everybody here, I know we're here to find ways to make money in cannabis, and I applaud that, and, you know, I think we should. But there's 3,000 people sitting in federal prison, and when you talk to those folks, they're sitting in high security, locked down, just living in cages. And if I can tell you, nobody here would want to be incarcerated for a day. You look at Parker Coleman, he has almost 50 years to go. If something doesn't happen, he's going to die in prison for a plant, nonviolent cannabis. And, you know, we can all say, hey, we're Americans and we're the white hats, but we can say it, but we're not living it if we're allowing this to happen. If we sit silently, I think it's immoral. Luke Scaramazzo, where's my teammate? Where's Luke? Where are you, man? He's here somewhere. He served 15 years of a 22-year sentence for running one dispensary in Modesto, California, legally. So, and the other one, Jose Valero Jr., Ali, and I'll get off this horse in a second, but I think it's really important. He's serving right now, he's in year 2 of a 7-year sentence for guess how many pounds of cannabis he sold? Less than 8. I just turned on my newest greenhouse, and that'll bring in 250,000 pounds per year. So none of those 3,000 individuals, that many of them could die in prison serving, as Mike Tyson said, murderers' time for a plant. This has to end. And so while we push for legalization of Schedule 3, let's reach out to our congresspeople.
And my last question is, I think so many of us in the room would agree with you, Kyle, but what can we do to help? What's the action item associated with that?
So one, Mission Green was founded by Weldon Angelos. When he got out after serving 13 years of a 55-year sentence, he said, I'm going to get other people out. So you can go to Mission Green, just log in on the internet. A donation is always appreciated to help keep him going. More importantly, or as importantly, all of you guys are represented by somebody in Congress, both you're in the House and the Senate. Pick up the phone. And also, remind Joe Biden you didn't say simple possession when you said you were going to pardon people. You said you were going to pardon people for cannabis, and do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for Benzinga for having us. Kyle, that was a great conversation. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you outside.
Thanks, Jesse.